Hi, at last I'm making this video. I'll try to explain the argument in its simplest form, but still it can be confusing, so please try to listen carefully. The moral argument for the existence of God is a very widespread argument, although many people misunderstand it. Before I go into the argument, I want to clarify a couple of points in order to prevent some misconceptions. Actually, I will propose two different arguments in this video. The goal of my first argument will be to show the logical necessity for a person who does believe in objective moral values to believe in God. In other words, to show that there can't be objective moral values without the existence of God. And the goal of my second argument will be to show why it's more reasonable to believe that there are objective moral values. Also, when I say God, I don't mean an ordinary deity, but the Supreme God, who is all good, all powerful, all knowing, eternal, and the source of everything that exists. For a more clear explanation about this distinction between the Supreme God and other gods, you can check my monotheism versus polytheism video. The moral argument for the existence of God doesn't claim that you have to believe in God or follow a religion in order to become an objectively good person. Actually, the argument is not about you at all. It's just about the objective moral values, the existence of objective moral values. And and just like not believing in gravity will not change the fact that you are a subject to it. Similarly, not believing in the existence of God will not change the results of living in a realm where the objective moral values exist. And what do I mean by objective moral values? Many people assume that this is some kind of moral absolutism, which means to believe that some actions are wrong regardless of circumstances. But no, to claim that there are objective moral values doesn't necessarily mean that. For example, it's objectively evil to rape a woman or murder someone just because you don't like his appearance, but it's not evil to have sex with your wife or kill a man if your life is threatened by him. As you can clearly see in these examples, the morality of sexual intercourse and killing someone can change according to circumstances, but still, in each and every circumstance, there are objective goods and bads. Now, where do these objective moral values come from? From an evolutionary perspective, we can say that our ancestors evolved in a way that they became capable of creating civilized societies. For that to happen, they had to have some sort of moral code, because otherwise people would do whatever they want to do, and this wouldn't create a safe society where people can survive and prosper. Therefore, people developed a moral system, and I don't mean intentionally, but genetically in the process of evolution. Evolution developed us in a way that we feel bad when we do harm to others, because, after all creatures evolve in a way that makes survival easier for them. But, you see, this explanation doesn't make morality an objective reality. Rather, it makes it a kind of illusion, a feeling that governs us for our own survival and well-being at the end. Not different than having a good sense of smell in order to distinguish the rotten from the fresh. In short, from this point of view, morality is nothing but a tool for our own survival and well-being. Okay, let's create a disgusting scenario. Let's say that there's a rapist and murderer, and he is sure that he will not be detected by anyone while he rapes and kills his victim. His well-being is not an issue here. He will not be arrested or executed, not even be judged by anyone. Nobody will know about what he has done. And also, let's say that he doesn't have a strong conscience, and on the contrary, he feels very good when he performs these horrible acts. If the sense of morality is nothing but a tool that is created by blind evolution for one's own survival and well-being, in this scenario, it has no meaning. But what if the moral values have their roots in an eternal, unchanging, transcendent person who is the source of everything that exists? It would change everything. In this case, the source of morality is not a blind evolution that pops up somewhere in the history. Blind evolution cannot be an authority for morality, but surely God can. If moral values are transcendent to material nature, then even in the disgusting scenario I mentioned, morality has a powerful meaning. Because in this case, morality is an unchanging part of the absolute reality. It's not something that we, as imperfect material bodily creatures, just feel for another material purpose. By the way, this argument doesn't necessarily discard the role of evolution. Our sense of morality is much more advanced in comparison to other animals because of our higher intelligence. An evolutionist should think like this. Just like the fact that our eyes are a product of evolution doesn't mean that the things we see are not real, similarly, the fact that our sense of morality is advanced through evolution doesn't mean that moral values themselves are not real. Of course, there are still questions to be asked, like, does something become good because God commands it, or God commands something because it is good? This is called as Yusuf's dilemma, but actually this is not a dilemma because there is another possibility. Neither things become good because God commands them, nor God commands them because they are good. Rather, what we call good is actually the God's unchanging and eternal nature. An act is good as long and much as it corresponds with the nature of God. And why God's nature is like this rather than that? It has no reason. Because God is beginningless, we can't ask, "Oh God, why art thou like this?" He is just a reality, and not just a reality, but the source of all reality. He is the causeless cause. As Krishna says in the Bhagavad-GITA, Aham sarvasya prabhavo, mattah sarvam pravardhati. I am the source of all. From me everything emanates. Still, one might ask further, what kind of connection is there between us and God's nature? What makes the moral act an obligation for us? Because everything emanates from God, there is nothing but God's energies. Please don't get me wrong here, I am not talking about pantheism. Both we and God are eternally persons, but since He is the source of all, everything that exists is nothing but His energy. Therefore, as parts of God's energy, we have an original, eternal state. And that state, which is our true nature, is being in accordance with the nature of God. The bad acts, in other words, the acts that don't correspond with the nature of God, are born out of ignorance, not knowing the truth. We see ourselves as the center of creation and try to use it for our own interests. But when we discover the reality, the absolute truth, everything changes. I remember a very nice example given by Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, who is the guru of my gurus. A small screw that is part of a big machine has value and can function normally only if connected to the machine. If separated, however, it is useless. Similarly, we, as parts of God, are only valuable when we act in accordance with God's nature. So, long story short, in the atheistic worldview, morality is nothing but an evolutionary tool for our own well-being, while in the theistic worldview, morality is the truth. And here, by atheism, I don't mean the rejection of all supernatural entities, but the rejection of the Supreme God. Of course, you can still say that you don't believe in objective moral values, although I think it's an incredibly difficult stand to take and see no reason to think that morality is subjective while we have such a strong, intrinsic feeling in us that almost screams to us whenever we see something morally wrong. I can even say that our moral sense is more real than any other sense we have, except the existence of our own self. Because, we can be sure of our own existence. As Descartes said, cogito ergo sum, I think, therefore I am. Which means even if things I see, hear and touch are nothing but a dream, because I'm experiencing this dream, I must exist in this or that form. So I can be sure of my existence, but other than that, everything can be an illusion. In this world of possibilities, the most reasonable thing to do is for grasping reality is using the tools that we have. And we have no tools other than reason and the sense of morality to achieve a higher metaphysical understanding. You might have some doubts about the reliability of our reason and the sense of morality, but again, these are the only things we have and we must give it a try. As Krishna says in the Bhagavad-GITA, Evam buddhe param buddhva. We should use reason to discover that which is beyond reason. Then let's follow the reason wherever it leads. Considering the strongest sense I have, the moral sense, there is nothing more real than God to me, except my own existence. God is much more real to me than this material universe, because I trust my moral sense more than I trust my eyes or ears. I can believe that I'm not here recording this video, but I can't believe that rape can be justified in any possible realm. Morality is transcendent to material universe, and if you believe transcendent values, you have to recognize a transcendent source. If you liked this video, please don't forget to subscribe and share. You're welcome to ask any questions. My next video will probably be about the free will argument for the existence of soul. Till then, take care.